Hello, good afternoon. It's Miral.
Okay.
I'll share my screen now. Okay, so I'll start with my project 1B. I proposed something called Food Waste a Rebound, which basically focuses on the idea of the amount of food waste that is generated in Meru. And specifically in my chosen site, which is site 3, there are a lot of incidents where drainage is blocked due to food garbage being improperly disposed. So the idea is that I wanted to create compost gardens along the 15-minute walk from site 3. So the compost gardens serve as that the food waste that is being generated by not only residential buildings but also industrial buildings would be gathered and then used as fertilizers to plant crops and other kind of plantations. So one of the things that I also wanted to wanted to include were barrel tumbler designs of how I want to engage people into uh, coming into the idea of composting their food waste instead of improperly disposing it, since there is no proper way around Mero site to dispose of these food wastes. So the food waste and the compost shed designs are two ways to help the community be more engaging in the idea of composting food waste. So my theme is new aesthetics architecture, which can be broken down into three: basic aesthetics, new norm, and responding to current crises. So the reshaping of architecture happens right now due to the crises that is happening throughout the years. So one of the three main crises that I wanted to tackle were COVID-19, climate change, and architectural evolution and time. So when it comes to COVID-19, I wanted to tackle the idea of SOPs, social distancing with the idea of indoor-outdoor hybrid spaces. And for climate change, I wanted to combat the idea of flooding with connecting bridges that are elevated from the normal ground elevation, as well as water pollution and heat waves by planting more greenery around the site. So this is the poster drawing, the illustration drawing that I did, where I wanted to explore how people within their houses, how they engage with the idea of composting, whether they even engage in the idea or not. And um, I also wanted to include the connecting bridge, where it is elevated in order to help people find an elevation when there is a flooding in case of the drainage blockage due to food waste. So next is the 2B, which is the microsite analysis. I did an analysis on the things that I thought would heavily impact my design, which includes microclimates, understanding heavy rainfall and wind, temperature, and all these things that could affect composting and how long it takes for different foods to compost. So heavy rainfall is a thing in Malaysia, and it can heavily impact crops and the plantations when there are crops to be grown. And then I studied landscape studies, and to understand the soil types in the site, it's very important because it affects how the crops that I want to grow grows and the amount of time it takes and whether it has enough minerals and all this as well. So after the site analysis, I discovered that alluvial, clay, and silt are the most suitable soil types for compost gardening. Next, I also studied the garbage truck circulation in order to understand where the food waste was come from, and just to get a better idea of how I want the zoning and circulation and things like that. So for the zoning, the basic idea was that I want a compost garden, an indoor-outdoor hybrid space, the connecting bridge that was from my drawing, co-living shelter, and an indoor-outdoor hybrid space. So for my problem statement is that within the community, there's a lack of communal connection, whether it is to one another and the environment and the surrounding neighborhood. In order for people to get a sense of connection and responsibility of keeping their neighborhood and community in a prime condition, the people need to engage in the process and be part of the change. So the idea is to create a community space that can also act as a shelter during any cases of flooding crisis. So my design inquiries or the questions I raised in order to come up with this design is how to raise awareness about local environmental issues, how to keep the community engaged, how to provide solutions for existing crises, and how to combat issues such as flooding, disconnected community, and improper waste disposal. So I came up with the idea of finding out what are the existing issues and proposing a program to combat these issues. So first of all, the existing issues in the factory workers is that there is a minimal understanding of environmental issues and no contribution outside the work environment. My proposed program is an industrial composting system, which is the same as a regular composting system, but it's just a wider, much bigger range in order for the factory workers to be more engaged with the community and have a more sense of awareness. Next is the youth community. Existing issues include lack of interest in the idea of recycling and composting, and an improper understanding and education onto the process of composting and its benefits. My proposed program includes um, like an educational lab or like an educational sort of theater in order for them to be more engaged and use their hands in the process of composting and really understanding how the process works and how it affects the community. Other issues include no exact place to start the plan of composting food waste and improper facilities to help with the composting process. So the proposed program is a community composting garden. So that serves a place for people to start if they want to start composting. It's just the idea that there is no place and there is no facilities for them to be able to start the process. When it comes to the overall community, some issues include lack of proper understanding of the issues of food waste and the lack of engagement to the environmental issues regarding improper garbage disposal. So, my proposed program is a greenhouse and it helps the community become more connected to what they're planting, and it's just something of their own in the community. This is a schematic model design development. This is just a process from project 2. And then for project 3, my case studies include uh, this to combat flooding. There is a way where during pedestrian lines from the main roads, the flooded water can actually be used in order to um, re-water the plants that are being grown in the composting gardens. So it's a matter of not only not wasting food waste, but also not wasting potential natural resources. Next is for the composting for the bridge that I want. It's not just going to be a bridge, but I want it to be a vertical farm or composting garden. It showcases the community's work not only from the inside as a garden, but also from the outside as a facade. Um, this is a case study of the stormwater management from the City of Philadelphia Green Streets Design Manual. So this just shows how the process of reinventing or reusing natural resources such as water for the process of watering plants. Sorry. Okay, so my building typology and programs include recreational public spaces, compost community areas, flooding shelters, and co-living spaces. So my design intention or draft is this sort of layout where I'm using connecting bridges to connect each kind sort of building to each other, and the connecting bridges shown here is this is an example of the bridges where it's not really on the ground and it's not really too high up, where you can still plant and you can still have compost gardens under those bridges, and it can also help combat the issues of flooding. So this is my space distribution in my, I started with the 3D in order to get a better idea of how the spaces would work along the site. So I started off with accommodations along here, and according to my weather studies and my wind direction studies, the wind actually flows from east to west, which is a good thing. So it's a good idea to put the accommodations at the back of the site. Next is the main connecting bridge, where I will have a community space and the vertical gardens, things such as libraries and co-living areas. Here are the anaerobic barrels where food waste is going to be put into, and with the absence of oxygen is going to decompose, and then it can be later used as fertilizers for the crops. Right behind the anaerobic barrels are fertilizer processing units where after the food waste is being decomposed in the barrels, they can be taken and then redistributed back into bags in order to be used as fertilizers. The empty areas are supposed to be the composting garden. It's still under planning where how I want the garden to be uh, distributed. Here is going to be the education lab slash theater, where the community youths and anyone who wants to learn more about composting can get a hands-on experience. There is also a parking on the lower floor. Here is an indoor-outdoor cafe where I wanted to implement the SOP idea where there is not just only enclosed spaces, but rather the hybrid of having outdoor and indoor areas. And here is the outsourced food waste storage. So there are 4 units to this because there are 4 stages to how the composting storage is going to be like. So this is the Jalan Meru main road, and usually garbage trucks always pass through this area. So since this is the entryway, and there is going to be a drop off area here. So this is building number 1 where all the food garbage is going to be collected in. Number 2 is finding out which garbage can be used for the composting and which cannot. Building number 3 right here is going to be where we are disposing of the things that are including of plastics and things that are not biodegradable. And building number 4 is the storage waste that can be used for composting, and it will be along the entry side of the circulation in order for it to be taken off to the composting gardens. So the circulation is enters from here into the drop off area for the accommodations and goes back to here into the parkings. And also there's a drop off area here for the indoor and outdoor cafes. I'm also planning to add parkings in like under the accommodations because I am planning to make it into um, like a studio unit for each of the pieces. Like they're split in half for each of the studio units. And this is a very rough site plan and another perspective view. Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I think the issue you presented is real. I mean, we all have to think of in terms of sustainability and how we can improve the social quality in these areas. But I think just to understand, is there a flood issue in that area? Just to
Yes,
back your research.
yes, there
There is
is.
a flood issue. And may I know how you tackle the flood issue in your site or building?
Yeah,
Did you
so
address it?
according to my case studies that I did, I wanted to implement the idea where pavements have like a sort of um, it's something that traps waste flood water, and we can later use that water in order to water the crops that are being used. Another thing is the elevated sort of bridges, where in case any flooding happens, people can still be able to walk around and not be bothered by the whole flood water thing. They can still like move around.
Okay, cool. I just want to, because since you already addressed the issue, I want you to address it within your building and planning. Okay, so when people come to, let's say, I want to create your building, I have to see, okay, you have flood, I need to address my flood in my building issue. Say, I don't know, it's a good idea. You said you raise the building above and you put the parking. So maybe that's one, but I'm not sure how this is gonna be. But maybe go to the site plan. I would like to see. Okay, just to, in my opinion, humble opinion, the first people are they wouldn't be encouraged to do this stuff. That's one. But your side will be how to make them encouraged. Okay. I like your idea of having the education center, and from that they will engage with the things. So people have they will you encourage them to do. That's one point. They will come and recycle. That's a good. But the one I don't see is this is the main road, right? And people want to see, or I wouldn't know your building. You have to give them a statement. This is, I think, for all of you. I don't see like a magnet or something you want them to pull people into participate. One magnet you need yours will be very different because you want to bring in traffic, mean you want to bring people in and draw them to your site and make it more active. When people want to see, the first thing I would like to see is your education, how things are being worked before I see the waste. Because if I'm coming to your site and first thing I would see the waste and where to put the waste is nice, is a good idea. But is it necessary to have the whole center, or maybe a place where you throw the trash? In Singapore, you just throw it and it will go all the way to the center. So you don't need to, your first impression of the building shouldn't be the trash. It should be the education, the participation of how to do things. Then that makes people encouraged to your area. Okay.
Mhm.
Then second, you have to do a statement. Statement, you have to even do a sculpture, something which, uh,
My sorry to interrupt, but my
yeah.
statement is the bridge in the middle. It's going to
Mm.
be a lot bigger. It's right now it's a lot smaller, but the idea is that it will be like a huge vertical garden basically. We're it's not only that we're gonna be designing the outside or the facade of it, but the community themselves are going to be helping design the exterior of it. So like a huge vertical garden.
Yeah, but how big? Would it be 10 meter? More than that, because imagine, you see, architecture is about perception. You have to how you drive to your site. The first impression, people wouldn't be in this area. I agree with you. This is a nice center area. Okay, but if I'm driving here or if I'm working here, would I see your things? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But my suggestion is you see you study. I like your lecture is already giving you how to do an urban design, which is nice because urban design you study the image of the city, you study how things need to have an edge, a landmark, and this is a public space, a public uh, community area. It has to have a landmark or something to pull people in and participate. So my opinion, I don't know, but I would suggest you would encourage people. The first glimpse I have to see is how people and how composing work. People will get attracted to it. Then once they get attracted, then people like it's behavior people like to do when they participate in a chain or society. Then your buildings work. I think that's all my comments in terms of how this building will function.
Understood.
I think Mr. Ashran can add more.
Um, yeah, I think you can present well, yeah, and you have a lot of quite detailed explanation, studies, facts behind it. But I think you can develop your overall, let's say, drawings or present. I mean, in terms of productions, I think this is what you can do for the finals. Yeah, but I don't want to change a lot in terms of your planning because it's already week 13 or 14. Yeah,
Mhm.
but maybe I can just give a simple and uh, maybe I don't know. Maybe you can just maintain all these shapes and everything, but maybe how you arrange it. All right. So
Okay.
maybe I don't know whether you can bring all this building to this part of the building.
Can
Maybe,
I justify why I have the lab in the middle. So
Yeah. It's
the
okay. It's
reason is because the composting garden is around that empty area here. So I want it to be like it's a hands-on experience, it's a hands-on education system. So they would be able to foresee what is actually happening. So if it was a bit further, they wouldn't really be able to fully understand or fully be capable to see the whole process of composting. So that's part of the main reason why I want it
okay.
here.
Okay, I understand. But my point is, the point is, I don't want you just to design or plan. Okay, this is what is this? Waste storage, and this is waste storage, and what is this?
Indoor outdoor cafes.
Yeah. So this is waste storage, and this is cafe. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I studied about the fact that actually composting waste is not inherently smelly. It's a very bad misconception. People assume that because it's garbage, but actually properly maintained compost waste does not smell bad at all.
Yeah, understand. But I think it's the system that you are using, right?
Hmm.
And again, my point is, I'm trying to like,
I think maybe if I replace the indoor outdoor cafes area with the anaerobic barrels and fertilizer area, so maybe the indoor outdoor area would be here instead of they would basically switch places. That would be maybe a bit better, especially with the fact that the restaurants maybe not so good idea to have it with the food waste storage.
yeah, I think it if you really want to show or to feature this as the main program, the fact that when you start to enter your space, I mean your area, so this is what this is what people see first. All
Mm-hmm.
right, if that's the idea, okay, fine, but I think it's just how you arrange it. All right, so let's say this is a food waste storage, but I don't think it should look like a food waste storage. I think it should be like a very welcoming areas where maybe it's a park, but in between it's a food waste storage. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
people see park first, and then they see the food waste storage, maybe
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the fact that I don't know, uh, because they have to drop off all the way to here. I think it's quite far. Oh, this
Mm-hmm.
is
This is
for the
for
accommodation.
accommodation. Yeah.
I see. I see. All right. All right. No, I don't think there's a major problem to this planning, but I think maybe it's how you finish it, how you putting it in plans, and can I see the site plan again? Plan. Yes. Okay. So hopefully lah. I mean, the way you arrange it, it's by zoning,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
By zoning, hopefully. So maybe each zoning they have, let's say, their own uh, territory and quality to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And by right, it should be connected to each other.
Yeah.
That's all for me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So then when you start your journey here, it's basically you can just walk all the way, something like that. It's not like, okay, you walk to here, okay, no, this is private. So you need to go here and go to this part. No, I don't think that's how you planned it.
Okay. Understood.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.